Hey guys, DC Multiverse Dude here. Very happy to be bringing you a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Injustice 2 Superman and Injustice 2 Brainiac. We've had a lot of Injustice 2 figures from McFarlane Toys over the years. These are the latest two, and I think they're an absolutely awesome looking pair. Big thanks to Head Start and McFarlane Toys for providing these samples for review. The boxes are as you would expect. Superman, Injustice 2, some very cool comic artwork on the back, and I've had some requests for barcodes recently. There's the barcode if you're trying to find this in store. Brainiac, Injustice 2. Very cool render from the game. It's interesting that Superman got comic art and Brainiac got a render, but it is what it is. And there you have the barcode, in case that's of interest. So, without any further ado, let's get these open and see how cool they actually are. Okay, starting with Injustice Superman. Now, what you get in the box is what you would expect. You get the McFarlane display stand, which we've seen a zillion times before. No flight stand for this Superman, which on balance is probably okay. But you know my feeling about flight stands and Superman. In most instances, I feel like Superman should come with a flight stand, but it is what it is. We do get a complete set of alternate hands. So you'll see we get the flight hands and we get the fists, which I think for Superman, that's what you need. You need a set of flight hands and you need a set of punchy fists. What you don't need is grippy hands. And so I'm very pleased to see that McFarlane has provided us with the hands that we need and not hands that we don't need. So no grippy hands. That's pretty good. We also get the collector card. There's the same art as the back of the box. There's the bio if you want to pause and read up about that. So Injustice 2 Superman. I'm not here to litigate the design of Injustice 2 Superman. By now, we've all played the game, read the comics, we know what Injustice Superman looks like. It's a very idiosyncratic design, and everyone's going to have their own opinion on it, and all those opinions are valid. Some hate it, some love it, you know, some admire it for being different. It's all valid. So I'm not here to sort of comment on the design. What I can comment on is how I think it's been executed as an action figure. So I can tell you that my immediate thoughts when I got this figure out of the box were that he's like beautifully made. This is a really great sculpt overall, you know. It's not flawless. I mean, we'll get to the flaws in a minute. But what I'm struck by is just the amount of unique sculpt work from top to bottom. There's not one reused part of this Superman that I can tell. As far as I can see, every single component, every bit of tooling here, the cape, the head, everything, the arms, the torso, it's all new. This to me is just a brand new figure from top to bottom. Not only is it completely new sculpt, it's got a lot of paint compared to the usual McFarlane figure. And not only that, but you know, the sculpt itself is actually intricate. So it's not only new, it's intricate, it's well painted. You know, he's big. I just don't understand why this figure is a standard retail figure for 20 bucks or whatever they are US, $40 Australian, but the collector's edition line figures are $10 more, even more in Australia, when this figure has more new tooling, more paint, better detail than the Superman that came in the collector's edition. Anyway, it's just interesting, you know, like, between this and the movie figures, it's like the game figures, movie figures, McFarlane really goes all out. He allocates extra love, attention, budget, whatever it is, to these more idiosyncratic designs, which is it's just an interesting approach, right? But like, let's start with the head. The head is probably my least favorite part of this Superman. You know, I don't like the headgear, like sort of the mask. It's not one of my favorite parts of the design. It's been fairly decently recreated here. I think there's something just a little bit off about the face. I can't tell what it is. I don't know who this Superman reminds me of. He's got like a Jersey Shore vibe going on. It just doesn't read as Injustice Superman. Like, it's not bad. And from certain angles, it looks better than others. What you can't deny is that the actual paint is really good. The skin tone is good. You know, the actual sculpt quality is good. It's just kind of, I don't know about the resemblance. It just doesn't work for me. Now, something to note is that it fits really snugly on this neck. And when I got mine out of the box, he couldn't really move his head. And I figured out that that was because this piece here had become, or this little back ridge here had become folded in, and it was sort of jammed, and it got sort of, I think, crushed by that peg, or that indentation on the back of the neck. Anyway, it was a bit of a mess, but I softened it up in hot water, and it sort of popped right back to where it was meant to be, and then I simply popped the head back on, and it was fine. So if you have an issue with the head, check the back of the neck, and just make sure that this silver piece here is sitting nicely over the back of the neck and not crumpled up, you know, tucked in inside itself. Yeah, so anyway, no harm, no foul there. You know, having a look at the S symbol, it's beautifully painted with gold, red, nicely sculpted, nicely painted. I particularly like how all of this joins seamlessly with the cape. The red of the emblem and the red of the cape do not match. The paint and the plastic, slight difference. I'm not sure if that's a design, like an original design element, but it doesn't bother me anyway. I think it looks really, really good. You'll see that these pauldrons here and the chest piece are painted plastic. Same with the paint on the bottom of the pauldrons there. Paint down the torso. And you'll see that there's this beautiful sculpted detail all along the arms, the torso. A really nice mix of sort of texture and smoothness. This sort of metallic sheen versus the texture. It really creates a lot of contrast and a lot of interest. And you'll see even just the way the light is playing on it is really beautiful. The diaper piece, it's fairly large, even by McFarlane standards, but it's got all this sort of detail and paint on it, which really breaks it up, and it sort of draws your eye away from the fact that you're looking at a diaper. So I think it's one of the better examples of how when you chuck some detail on there, these things don't tend to look that bad. In terms of the arms, beautiful sculpting all the way around, sculpted wrist joints, looks really, really good. Come to the legs, there's that beautiful texture work again. Paint on the legs, the knees, sculpted boots, really nice ankle joints, those sculpted ankle joints, seamless looking. The plastic is a slightly different color than the boot and the foot, but it's not noticeable. Like it looks okay. The light here is sort of making it look more obvious than it actually does in ambient light. The cape, beautifully sculpted. It's a new sculpt. We've not seen this cape before. Not the most texture we've ever seen. It's kind of got a smooth look to it. Usually these capes have a bit more texture. So not one of the greatest capes ever, but like I generally like the flow of it. I think it's a nice general shape. In terms of articulation, I've showed you the head, spins right around. You get a bit of tilt from side to side, more than you'd ever need. He looks up that much, down about that much. There's a ridge on the back that I'm talking about that sort of inhibits the motion. You can kind of see it just sort of creates a bit of friction there. But yeah, good head articulation. Now the arms do have pauldrons here, but they're attached to the top of the forearm, not to the shoulder, which is really good because it allows you to do much more with the arms. So even with the pauldron inhibiting the movement, you can still kind of do everything that you'd want to do, like a good flight pose, above the head, you know, everything you'd kind of want. So that's good. Double jointed elbows, more than you need. Wrists are on a hinge and a swivel. You know, good stuff. Coming to the diaphragm, you've got the upper torso cut. That doesn't go, oh yeah, no, it goes right around. Look at that, 360 degrees. 360 degrees at the waist as well, no problem. In terms of ab crunch, you're not getting much. This is not giving you much forward crunch, but you're getting a decent amount of backwards sort of play. So you can get to the flight pose really, really easily, which is kind of what you want. That's what you want out of a Superman. You'll see that the shoulder joints here, they've got one of those sort of butterfly joint axle pieces there. It's actually huge. Like, look how big it is, and it still leaves a gap there. So look, that's a little bit unsightly. I think they could have done that a little bit better. It kind of just depends how you rotate it around, you know. Yeah, something to be mindful of when posing. In terms of legs, kicks out easily, 90 degrees. Double jointed knees, do really well. The feet have the full rotation, the rocker, hinge up and down, and toe articulation. So like, in terms of articulation, this does everything that you would want it to do. And then some, it's really well articulated, which for these bulkier designs, you don't always get. So very happy with this figure. Yeah, let's have a look at some comparisons. So here's Injustice Superman next to Superman Action Comics 1000 from the Atomic Skull 2-pack. You'll see that he's a little bit taller, a little bit buffer, but has really good proportions. Yeah, they look good together if you're so inclined to pose them together. And here is Injustice 2 Superman next to the Collector Edition Action Comics #1 or Superman #1, because this is the Platinum Chase variant. Superman, you'll see that they're roughly the same height. I think Injustice 2 Superman's about a hair taller. And you'll also see that he doesn't share the same buck as this infected body buck that we've seen a million times. And I think this guy's just a breath of fresh air when you compare them, honestly. It's just so nice to see so much new sculpting for a Superman. Yeah, it's been a long time coming since we've had a new Superman, and it's exciting, actually. So yeah, that's how those two look together. Turning now to Injustice 2 Brainiac. Now, this is the one that I was really excited for because we are long overdue for a Brainiac figure this many years into the line, and this is one of the coolest designs for Brainiac ever, in my opinion. So while I won't wax lyrical too much about the design itself, because we all know where we stand on it, I'll just give you my opinion, which is that it rocks. So what we get in the package is we get 4 of these tentacles, Brainiac tentacles, that sort of poured into the back. I'll show what those look like in a minute. These are not bendy, so they're very soft, but they've got no wire in them. Look, I don't expect that from a $20 McFarlane figure, but gosh, it would have been nice if they had some sort of posability to them, but that may be a bit much to expect. We get the Multiverse display stand, which I'm not going to waste a second talking about, and we get the collector card, which has that render on it. And there is the bio for Brainiac on the back if you want to have a read. So, Brainiac. Let's get those tentacles ported and let's see how he looks. So here is Brainiac with all of his sort of tentacles attached. Now, they don't give you much guidance about where to attach which tentacle, but it's fairly obvious based on the source material that these pointy tentacles down here poured into the bottom, and these more Doc Ock claw tentacles are at the top. That's true to the design, but the way the pegs are sculpted, it's clear that these are meant to go into the top ports, and these ones are meant to pour into the 2 ports at the bottom. They're sort of deeper holes, and that's got a deeper peg, so you can kind of see what the intention is. But there's kind of no rule. You can shove whatever tentacle you want in whatever port. That sounds filthy, sorry. But in terms of like which tentacle goes in which port, it's kind of up to you. And depending on which side you port them on and how you sort of rotate them in the port, you'll get a different look. And you kind of just have to figure it out by wiggling it around to sort of get a look that you like. It'll take some experimentation to get a look that's good. And I really do think some articulated or bendy tentacles would have been preferable to sort of get a more consistent look to how these pose. But for what they are, they're pretty good, and they're so malleable that you can kind of make them do what you want. Like if you want to pose his arm up, you can tuck that under there and vice versa. So you can kind of work around them to get something that looks good. It might take some fiddle-faddling, but it is what it is. They're pretty cool for what they are, and I think if you experiment, you might be able to get better results than me. In terms of the figure itself, let's just get the tentacles out of the way so we can take a look at this incredible head sculpt. Now, there was a lot of criticism about this head sculpt when it was revealed, that he looked a little bit sad or contemplative. I think the final paint job, final sculpt actually looked really, really solid. I love that pink paintwork application on the chest and the head. It really harkens back to that more original comic Brainiac design. I like it a lot. You'll see he's cast in mostly this pearlescent plastic. And you know my feelings, usually when they cast something in a silver or metallic plastic and get that pearlescent look, I don't think it looks very good. I wish they'd paint it. I think on the whole, this guy looks pretty good though. They've applied, you can see, a bit of a wash to him. So he has sort of a generally sort of dirty look, which I think sort of fits the character, you know, that sort of rusty alien look. I don't know, it suits the design from the game. But overall, like, you know, I'm blown away by the completely unique sculpt. Just like Superman, this is new from top to bottom. It's an exciting thing when you open a figure and you just don't know how it's going to feel in your hand. You know, it's exciting to not know what you're going to get. And with Brainiac, I didn't know what I was going to get, and I'm genuinely really impressed with just the quality of how he feels. He's big, he's heavy. You know, I opened an X-Men 97 Wolverine figure from Marvel Legends 2 days ago, and, you know, it felt like this tiny, flimsy little piece of cheap plastic, if I'm being honest, even though it's a cool figure. This feels like a big, heavy, awesome figure, you know, and I just, you know, that's not to be discounted. You'll see that the sculpt work is just immaculate all the way around. From the back, you know, those tentacles are all sculpted beautifully. Just all over. All over. Really, really great stuff. In terms of articulation, despite the fact he's got this sort of collar piece, his head spins right around 360 degrees, ample head tilt left and right. He can look up that amount. It is inhibited by the collar. He can look down really, really well. He can stare at his feet. These pauldrons are nice and soft, so they don't inhibit the arms as much as you might think. You can kind of do everything that you would reasonably want to do. You know, they accommodate that. So well done to McFarlane. You'll see that those butterfly joint axle pieces there are just enormous, just like Superman. Just a massive hunk of plastic there. Diaphragm, 360 degrees. I can tell. I'm not going to push it. I will push it just for you. I'll push it all the way around. Same at the waist, all the way around. In terms of crunch, decent amount, backwards and forwards. Yeah, impressive at the waist. Again, huge diaper, but because it's sculpted so beautifully, you barely even notice. And that is how you do a diaper. Take note, all other McFarlane sculptors, you know. Put the detail on so we don't look like they're wearing nappies. Legs kick out 90 degrees. Double jointed knees, although the nature of the sculpt means you're not going to get much more than that. Rocker, pivot, tilt, toe articulation on the foot, everything you'd expect. You'll see that beautiful pink highlighting is on the knees as well. Really brings it to life. Yeah, you see there's that pearlescent look to the plastic. I don't think it looks too bad. So yeah, overall, you know, this is a beautiful, beautiful Brainiac. I think my biggest qualm with Brainiac right now is that the tentacles require a little bit of fiddling to look good. You know, you've really got to spend some time getting them just where you want them to be, rotating them, swapping around, do a bit of experimentation, and I think you'll be able to get a result that's pretty good. In terms of his hands, you'll see he comes with one fisty hand, one sort of evil gesture hand, which I think is about right. I would have liked one more set of hands for Brainiac, I think, just a complete fist pair and a complete gesture pair, but, you know, this is okay. I think, given the amount of plastic that you get in the box, like, you know, this is fair. You get a lot for your money for this figure, I will say that. You know, he's big, he's heavy, he's hyper detailed, lots of paint. Well, not lots, but enough paint, I would say. Sculpting through the roof. Yeah, I'm kind of blown away by it, really. And what shocks me is that, you know, if this was a Marvel Legends figure, it'd be probably boxed up as like a deluxe, you know, like the Ronan the Accuser figure that's not that big, but somehow is a deluxe figure. No doubt they would charge more for this in Marvel Legends. You know, this amount of plastic for $20 US these days, it's looking more and more like a steal. So yeah, Brainiac, pretty cool. Let's do some quick comparisons. So here is Injustice 2 next to the Lex Luthor in power armor. you'll see in Brainiac stands half a head taller, he's wider, just generally more imposing, which makes sense for this version of the character. He's big, he's impressive. I think these two actually look quite good together. I don't think the fact that one's a comic version and one's a game version really, inhibits their displayability together. I think if you're going to make a, Superman Rogue shelf, they look really good next to each other. And here is Brainiac next to the General Zod figure that we've got. Again, towers over Zod, really much bigger. But again, I think, there's enough design sensibility, compatibility that you can display these two together and they look really good. So, bringing in Lex Luthor, there we go, Lex. You can actually get like a really good looking Superman sort of rogues display. And I think this Brainiac fits aesthetically really well. So until we get a comic accurate version, if we ever get one, I think this one will fit the bill very nicely. So look, to wrap up this video, because I've waxed lyrical long enough, these are two really good figures, really solid releases from McFarlane Toys. The sculpts are amazing, top to bottom new sculpts, $20 US. You can't really argue with that. This is new stuff. So for everyone banging on about reuse, sometimes we get reuse, but every now and then, as with the Aquaman figures and as with these, you get beautiful new sculpting. So, you've got to give credit where it's due. Both have decent amount of paint, more so than your average McFarlane figure, and I think generally the quality of the sculpt is really high. I'm not super crash hot on Superman's face, but that's a personal preference. Articulation is on point for both figures, can't complain. In terms of accessories, we get just about everything we would want and need. I think a flight stand for Superman would have been good, but again, I don't want to nitpick given the quality of the figure that we actually did get. It's a solid figure. It's a complete figure. Yeah, these two are winners. I don't know, these just highlight the problem with the collector's line. Like, these are just such high quality releases for 20 US bucks that it's just really hard to swallow those more expensive figures where you can't see what's really being done to justify the expense, If you're on the fence for these two, I'd say pick them up if you're a fan of the game. For Superman, he's not essential. If you're a Superman fanatic, you'll want this one. If you're a game fanatic, you'll want this one. It's so exciting to get a new Superman sculpt. Really cool. But I definitely think that Brainiac is the pick of the two. And this is one that even if you're just a comic book, collector and you're not really into the game, this will serve you well as a great Brainiac for your Legion of Doom or your Superman Rogue shelf. It's just a great design. It's close enough to the comic book look to fit the bill. And I think this is just going to be one of the better figures of the year, in my opinion. Really like it. Anyway, that's enough for me. Let me know in the comments what you think about these figures. Will you be picking them up? If so, which ones? Let me know. If you haven't subscribed, really appreciate it if you would. Give this video a like if it's been helpful to you in any way. I have some more reviews for you soon. Hopefully I'm going to get to the Batman animated series line, and I've got some of those for review. I've also got the Dark Knights of Steel figure to review. That's going to be really fun. So please keep an eye out. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. And until next time, happy collecting, and thank you so much for watching.